It's time to talk about the EuroLeague Final Four, why I think it's outdated, and why we need a change. Let's take a look at both the arguments for and against the current way that the EuroLeague champions are crowned, and hopefully that will help you decide which one is better, the Final Four or playoff series all throughout. First, I want to give some credit to the Final Four, since there's no denying the drama and intensity this weekend of basketball brings. During this 4-team tournament, EuroLeague slogan "Every game matters" evolves even further, as here the winners of the semi-final and the final are decided in a single game. That is the perfect breeding ground for dramatic endings, huge upsets, and Cinderella stories. Just because of this format, no experts or odds makers are confident to predict who will end up with the title, even when there are seemingly clear favorites who dominated in the regular season or the playoffs. To illustrate this, I will open up the history books. Of course, we gotta remember the fact that the EuroLeague changed their format starting with the 2016-17 season, when they went away from the groups, top 16 to Final Four format and went for the regular season, playoffs, and Final Four. In this current format so far, none of the teams that finished first in the regular season have won the EuroLeague. 22-23 Real Madrid did it from 3rd, 21-22 and 20-21 FS from 6th and 3rd respectively, 18-19 CSKA Moscow from 2nd, 17-18 Real from 5th, and 16-17 Fenerbahce from 5th. But could you really call any of these a Cinderella story? I don't think so. All of these teams I just mentioned are powerhouses, and some of them were 1-2 wins away from the first seed. Or in FS's case, when they did it from the 6th spot, they were the defending champions. Alright, let's go further back. The most obvious occasion of underdogs winning the championship is probably 2014, when Maccabi Tel Aviv really did the impossible and won the title against all odds. Then you probably look at that Olympiacos repeat in 2013, but again, just like with FS, I would argue that the defending champions do not qualify for a Cinderella story. And last example that comes to mind is the 2012 Final Four, where Printezis hit his famous floater for the title against CSKA. And those were all the occasions that fit the parameters. All the other seasons of modern EuroLeague saw teams that were dominant in the top 16 take the crown. So this argument that the quote-unquote weaker teams can have an opportunity to win the EuroLeague title is in theory correct, but the historical facts make it redundant. One thing you cannot take away from a Final Four are the historic moments. Again, gotta come back to that Yorgos Printezis shot as the prime example, but just take a look yourself.
By himself, gets it to Printezis, he makes it! Olympiacos ahead! 0.7 seconds left!
But that's not all, obviously. We also had Spanoulis' dagger in 2013 from way outside.
Spanoulis from deep! He hits it! Vasilis Spanoulis does it again!
Tyrese Rice with the game winner in 2014 semis.
David Blue steals it. Tyrese Rice to the rim. Puts it down. Maccabi's ahead.
Corey Higgins' game winner in the 2021 semis.
As the clock runs down, Higgins, if it goes, it'll win it! Me gusta! Corey Higgins with a shot at the death.
Mitsic's 3 for the win in the 2022 semis.
Clock is running out. Micic rises. If it goes, he'll win it! Vasilya Micic with the troika!
And finally, the latest one, Sergio Yui's shot to win the 2023 title.
Yui working against foul, beats him with the dribble, pulls up at the elbow, high arcing J is good! And Sergio Yui!
You can't really argue with the emotions these plays provided, but let's not forget all the other games that weren't as close and the winner was clear at halftime. I've calculated that an average point difference in the semifinal and final games throughout modern EuroLeague history is 8.2. But there were 9 occasions where those games finished with 15 plus point difference, 3 of those being 19 points and 1 as high as 38. Don't get me wrong, generally most Final Four games are close, but my point is that if you had more games, a series to be specific, then you potentially add even more opportunities for creating those dramatic games and spectacular moments.
How are we going to land in Istanbul? How are we going to take that plane down? I have no idea.
Now, let's talk about fairness. When a team plays 34 games in the regular season, of which most have a significant meaning, then a best-of-5 quarterfinal series that for the last 2 years had 6 decisive Game 5s in 8 total series, and then that team's semifinal is decided in a single game. All year working for a home court advantage results in having that advantage just in the quarterfinals. And that's because the Final Fours are played in predetermined locations and often have none of the local teams. In fact, the last time a Final Four team was actually playing at home was in the 2016-17 season when Fenerbahce won their first ever title. But home advantage is just one factor. A much more important one is the fact that anything can happen in one game. Like I said, you can use this as a benefit from the perspective of the underdogs, but there's just no depth, and obviously a stronger team can be eliminated due to a bad shooting night. As a basketball fan, you want to see adjustments, you want to see storylines, you want to see great comeback stories, but the Final Four does not facilitate any of that. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and the season is over. Just looking back at this season's 2023-24 playoffs, 3 of the home teams lost their game once, so if that was single elimination too, we literally wouldn't have the Nuns takeover that probably got him the All-EuroLeague spot on his rookie season, Slucas's iconic games, or Pau in the Final Four in general. Nicolaitis wouldn't be hitting 2 game-winning threes after being 1 of 8 from the outside prior, and Shaq McKissick wouldn't have carried Olympiacos on his back to the Final Four. And that's just a minor part of the potential we're missing out on. I feel like we all would appreciate the drama building up game to game, and if those semi-final or final series would go to a decisive game, you could confidently say that both teams are deserving to win. Now, before I go into the reasons why the EuroLeague has stuck to the Final Four format, a quick shout out to the sponsor of this video, Hostinger. There's many options for designing websites, but Hostinger has done the work to make this experience as simple as possible. Save your money and time learning about coding or design. Instead, just try out 150 designer-made templates that are fully customizable, or even better, just use Hostinger's AI website builder. It lets you use a text prompt and get started in less than a minute. And also, you don't need to think about some external company to host the website with. It's all available at the same spot, plus you get your domain for free. Check out the link in the description, and with our code BNews10 you'll get 10% off of all hosting plans. Okay, so why hasn't the EuroLeague made the change yet? Well, there are 2 major reasons: the financial side and the European basketball schedule. I'll try to deconstruct both, starting with money. The Final Four is sometimes referred to as the EuroLeague's cash cow, since the event attracts many different sponsors that are able to buy their advertising spots at one place for a short period of time. Obviously, that money then allows the EuroLeague not just to organize this weekend, but also pay the teams their bonuses, with the most recent champion, Real Madrid, getting as much as 1.7 million euros for winning the title last year. Like I said before, it's one of those rare chances for the league to make some profit and use that money to grow. If it was about the teams, the series would bring in much more money than any bonuses, as just a single game can boost the team's budget by as much as €1 million per home game. That's exactly what Žalgiris Kaunas earned in their only home game in the 2022-23 series against Barcelona, just from the ticket sales alone. And even if you take the perspective of the league, selling the TV rights for more games could turn out to be even more profitable in the long run. But there are too many ifs, and a lot of them come down to simply just time. With the domestic leagues in the picture, the schedule for EuroLeague teams is just too tight to simply replace the Final Four with the best-of-5 series for both the semi-finals and finals. We're talking about a potential of 15 games compared to 4 that are happening in each Final Four. Oh yeah, there are 4 because for some reason that completely meaningless third-place game is still a thing. Anyways, extra 11 games could extend the postseason by at least 3 weeks, and that's if there's no break in between the quarterfinals and the rest of it. Now add all the domestic league playoffs that are just as important as the EuroLeague for some of the teams, and you have yourself a very intense month of May. So just straight up swapping of formats would fatigue the players even more, potentially affecting the quality of the games. That's why we gotta look at it realistically, and I'll give you some of the alternatives that were thrown out there by my colleagues. First, the one that I prefer is changing all the playoff series, including the quarterfinals, to be a best-of-3 instead. This way you give up some of the potential I spoke about before, but still have a series all throughout, which by the way is even more necessary in my opinion, considering the top 4 teams are closer in competitiveness than when the first seed meets the 8th seed, for example. After doing the math, this option only adds a potential of maximum 3 extra games, but there would have to be no break in between the quarterfinals, semis, and the final series. Our second option is way more radical, as it would affect the regular season. That is shortening the regular season by making some teams play each other, not both home and away, but some just home and some just away. In this model, we would be looking at a 2-year cycle, whereby a random draw teams get 4 opponents, of which 2 they play only home and 2 only away. Then the next year it flips and teams played those 4 opponents in the opposite way. 2 that they played home they would play away, and vice versa. With the current number of teams, which is 18, this would take away 4 game rounds, freeing up to 4 weeks depending on double weeks. I know it sounds a bit convoluted and seemingly unfair, so that's why it wouldn't be my go-to option. I would rather think about a conference system, which the NBA has, especially considering EuroLeague's plans to expand the participating team number in the future. Well, I guess we can only wait and see if any changes are going to be implemented, but until that time, I want to see your opinion in the comments. Our poll results were tight, but leaning towards the series, so I'm curious to also read your proposals on what the EuroLeague could do about the financials and schedule. Hit the like button if you haven't done so already, subscribe to this channel, and I'll see you in the next one.